The grand chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive ring of crystalline metal that housed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Inside, representatives from 873 species sat in their designated sections, their various forms creating a bizarre tapestry of life. Some breathed methane, others existed as clouds of sentient gas, and a few were simply minds uploaded into mechanical bodies. But today, they all shared one common purpose. They were here to decide the fate of humanity. Ambassador Velcrim rose from his seat, his four arms spreading wide as holographic displays flickered to life around him. The Thalaxian was tall, nearly 3 meters, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His species had been part of the Galactic Council for 12,000 years. They knew how things worked. "Honored members," Velcrim began, his translator converting his clicking speech into thousands of languages simultaneously. "We can no longer ignore the human threat. 50 years ago, these primitives discovered faster-than-light travel. 50 years. Most species take 5,000 years to reach such heights. Yet the humans rushed into space like wild animals, claiming systems, building weapons, refusing our guidance." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. In the observation section, Hyun-woo sat perfectly still. He was the only human allowed in the council chambers, though his role was merely to observe and report. He had no vote, no voice in these proceedings. His people had applied for council membership 3 times. 3 times they had been rejected. The holographic displays showed images of human ships, angular and brutal compared to the elegant curves of council vessels. They showed human colonies spreading across a dozen systems. They showed human weapons tests that had been detected by council monitors. "They build war machines," Velcrim continued. "They fortify their worlds. They refuse to share their technology or submit to council inspections. And when we send diplomatic missions, they smile and nod but never truly comply. The humans are a cancer that will spread if we do not act now." A representative from the Quilon Collective, a species of 6-legged insectoids, rose to speak. "Perhaps they simply do not understand council protocols? They are young. We should give them time to learn." Velcrim's laugh was like breaking glass. "Time? In 50 years, they have built a fleet that rivals species who have been traveling the stars for millennia. Give them another 50 years and they will be unstoppable. No, the time for patience has passed. I propose a military intervention, a corrective action. We send a fleet to Earth, destroy their military capabilities, and place them under council supervision until they learn to behave." The chamber erupted in debate. Some species called for caution, others for immediate action. Hyun-woo watched it all with growing dread. He had tried to warn his superiors on Earth that this day might come. The council did not tolerate independence. Every species either joined and followed the rules, or they were brought into line by force. But Earth had never been good at following other people's rules. After 3 hours of debate, the vote was called. Hyun-woo felt his stomach tighten as the results appeared on the central display. 847 in favor, 12 against. The motion passed. The Galactic Council had just voted to go to war with humanity. Velcrim smiled, a gesture that looked wrong on his alien face. "Excellent. I propose we assign Admiral Thexus and the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet to carry out this action. 300 ships should be more than sufficient to handle a single world of upstart primitives." More murmurs of agreement. Hyun-woo could stay silent no longer. He stood, knowing he was breaking protocol but unable to stop himself. "Honored Council," he said, his voice amplified by the chamber's systems. "I must speak." The chamber fell silent. Velcrim turned to stare at him with eyes that held no warmth. "The human observer wishes to address the council. How irregular. But please enlighten us with your wisdom." The sarcasm was not lost on anyone. Hyun-woo felt hundreds of alien gazes upon him, but he pressed forward. You are making a mistake. You think humanity is weak because we are young, but we are not weak. We are different. My people have fought wars among themselves for thousands of years. We have built weapons that could destroy our own world 100 times over. We have survived plagues, extinction events, and our own worst impulses. We are still here because we refuse to die. Touching, Velkrim said, but irrelevant. Your species may be survivors, but you have never faced the might of the Galactic Council. You have never seen what true power looks like. And you have never faced humanity when its back is against the wall, Hyun-woo replied. I am begging you to reconsider. Send diplomats. Negotiate. Give us a chance to find a peaceful solution. The Keelan representative spoke again. Perhaps the observer has a point. War should be our last resort, not our first choice. But Velkrim was already shaking his head. The vote has been cast. The decision is made. Admiral Thexus will depart within the week. This will be a swift action, a simple police operation. The humans will surrender when they see our fleet, and then we can begin the process of civilizing them properly. The session was adjourned. As the various species filtered out of the chamber, Hyun-woo remained in his seat, his head in his hands. He needed to send a message to Earth immediately. His people needed to know what was coming. An hour later, in a different section of the station, Admiral Thexus reviewed his orders with barely concealed amusement. The Thalaxian officer was a veteran of 30 campaigns, all of them successful. He had brought rebellious colonies to heel, crushed pirate fleets, and enforced council law across half the galaxy. And now they wanted him to intimidate a single primitive world. 300 ships, he muttered to his second-in-command. They are sending 300 ships to frighten some apes who learn to fly. This is an insult to my reputation. His second-in-command, a younger Thalaxian named Vexal, nodded. Perhaps command wants to ensure there are no complications, sir. The humans have shown some technological aptitude. Aptitude? Thexus laughed. They have toys, crude weapons, and clumsy ships. We have perfected warfare over millennia. This will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration. We will arrive at Earth, show them our fleet, and they will beg for mercy. Mark my words, Vexal. We will be back here within a month, having never fired a shot. And if they do not surrender, sir? Thexus waved a dismissive hand. Then we destroy their orbital facilities and military bases. A few targeted strikes, nothing more. We are not there to exterminate them, merely to teach them a lesson about their place in the galaxy. Far across the station, Hyun-woo finally reached a secure communication terminal. His message was brief and encrypted, sent via quantum entanglement directly to Earth's Defense Command. They voted for war. Fleet of 300 ships commanded by Admiral Thexus. Estimate arrival in 2 weeks. I tried to stop this. I am sorry. Prepare for the worst. Hyun-woo. He sent the message and sat back, closing his eyes. The council thought this would be a simple police action. They thought humanity would fold at the first sign of overwhelming force. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The message from Hyun-woo reached Earth Defense Command exactly 7 minutes after he sent it. Within 10 minutes, every major military installation on Earth and her colonies received the alert. Within 20 minutes, Fleet Admiral Ji-won was standing in the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, staring at a holographic display of the solar system. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with gray streaks in her black hair. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 8 years, and in that time, she had prepared for exactly this scenario. The Council had always been a threat. Everyone knew it. The only question was when they would finally act. "Get me a full status report," she said calmly. "I want to know the position of every ship, every weapon platform, and every combat-ready unit we have. And someone wake up the president. We need authorization to implement Protocol Midnight. Protocol Midnight, the plan they had hoped never to use, the plan that assumed Earth would one day have to fight the entire galaxy alone. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, pulling up data streams and sending orders across the solar system. The command center was designed to survive a direct nuclear strike, buried 3 kilometers beneath solid rock. It had its own power generation, its own life support, and quantum-encrypted communication systems that could reach the farthest human colonies in seconds. On the far side of the asteroid belt, Captain Dae-hyun received his orders while sitting in the command chair of the UES Silent Mountain. The ship was Earth's newest carrier, though carrier was an inadequate term for what it truly was. The Silent Mountain was a mobile fortress, carrying 200 smaller craft and equipped with stealth systems that made it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Dae-hyun was 32 years old, the youngest carrier captain in the fleet. He had earned his position through a combination of tactical brilliance and a willingness to take risks that made his superiors nervous. He read the orders twice, then turned to his bridge crew. "All hands to battle stations," he said quietly. "This is not a drill. The Galactic Council has voted to attack Earth. We have 2 weeks to prepare. Execute Plan Shadowfall. Take us into the asteroid field and go dark. No emissions, no communications unless absolutely necessary. We are now a ghost." His crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this. Every human ship had trained for this. The Silent Mountain's engines went cold, her power systems dropped to minimal levels, and slowly, carefully, she drifted into the vast field of rock and ice that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. To anyone watching, she simply vanished. On Mars, Major Hana was running training exercises with the 7th Drop Legion when the alert came through. Her unit specialized in orbital assault, the brutal business of boarding enemy ships and taking them by force. They were the best at what they did, and what they did was not pretty. "Listen up," she barked at her troops, her voice cutting through the red Martian wind. "The shooting match we have been preparing for is finally here. The Council is sending a fleet to teach us a lesson. Our job is to teach them one instead. We deploy to orbital stations in 6 hours. Full combat load. Make your peace with whoever you need to make peace with, because some of us are not coming back." Her soldiers did not flinch. They had volunteered for this. Every single one of them had signed up knowing that humanity's military was not about parades and ceremonies, it was about survival. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, Dr. Taimin walked through a laboratory that officially did not exist. He was the head of advanced weapons research, a division so classified that even most government officials did not know about it. His team had spent the last 15 years developing weapon systems based on one simple principle. If humanity had to fight the galaxy, they needed every advantage they could create. "How much time do we have?" he asked his assistant, a young engineer named Bora. 2 weeks, maybe less," she replied. "Fleet Admiral Ji-won wants the Reaper Protocol ready to deploy." Tae-min nodded slowly. The Reaper Protocol. His life's work and his greatest shame. It was a network of weapons platforms hidden across the lunar surface, in Earth orbit, and scattered through the inner solar system. Each platform carried missiles tipped with quantum disruption warheads, weapons that could tear apart the fundamental forces holding matter together. He had designed them to kill ships on a scale that made nuclear weapons look gentle. "Then we activate," he said. "God forgive us for what we are about to do." 12 hours after Hyunwoo's warning, Fleet Admiral Ji-won convened an emergency meeting of Earth's military leadership. The holographic conference room showed faces from across the solar system. Admirals, generals, scientists, and intelligence officers all looked to her for guidance. "We all know why we are here," Ji-won began. "The Council has voted for war. They are sending 300 ships under the command of Admiral Thexus. Intelligence suggests they believe this will be a quick, easy operation. They think we will surrender when we see their fleet. Will we? Asked General Quan, commander of Earth's ground forces. Jiwan smiled, but there was no humor in it. No. We are going to show them what happens when you back a human into a corner. We are going to hurt them so badly that they regret ever learning our species' name. She activated a new display showing the solar system with various colored indicators. Here is how this will work. We let them come to us. Our outer colonies begin evacuation procedures immediately. Anything we cannot move, we booby-trap or destroy. We will not leave them anything useful. She highlighted the asteroid belt. Captain Dae-hyun and our stealth carrier group will position themselves here. When the Council fleet enters the system, they will believe they face only our defensive forces near Earth. They will not see our carriers until it is too late. Another highlight, this time showing Mars and the orbital stations. Major Hana's drop legions will be positioned to strike at any ship that gets separated from their main formation. We have been practicing boarding actions for years. They have not had to defend against boarders in centuries. That is an advantage. The final highlight showed Earth and Luna. When they reach Earth orbit, Dr. Taemin activates the Reaper protocol. Every weapon we have been hiding, every nasty surprise we have prepared, all of it comes online at once. We turn our home system into a killing field. That will not be enough, said Admiral Park, commander of the outer colonies. 300 ships is still overwhelming force. Even with all our preparations, the numbers are against us. Which is why we are not showing them everything, Ji-won replied. She activated one more display. This one showing shipyards hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond the orbit of Neptune. For 10 years, we have been building a fleet out here in secret. Ships designed specifically to fight Council technology. 500 vessels all waiting for my command. When the Council commits to attacking Earth, when their fleet is fully engaged, Admiral Soo-jin will bring our strike fleet out of hiding and hit them from behind. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth was not just preparing to defend. Earth was preparing to win. There will be casualties, Ji-won continued quietly. Many of them. This will be the bloodiest conflict humanity has ever fought. But we have no choice. The Council has made their decision. Now we make ours. She looked at each face in the holographic conference. We show them that humanity does not surrender. We show them that we do not break. And we show them that choosing us as an enemy was the worst mistake they ever made. Over the next 2 weeks, the entire human species mobilized for war. Civilian ships fled the outer colonies. Military vessels moved into position. Weapons platforms that had been dormant for years came online and began their targeting sequences. Soldiers said goodbye to their families, knowing they might never return. And through it all, one message spread across every human world, every station, every ship. It was simple, just 3 words, but it carried the weight of humanity's determination. Make them bleed. Admiral Thexus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and watched the human star system grow larger on his displays. 2 weeks of faster-than-light travel had brought the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet to the edge of the Sol system, and now his 300 ships hung in perfect formation at the outer edge of the Kuiper Belt. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. "Let us see what kind of resistance these primitives have prepared." His sensors officer worked the controls for several minutes before responding. "Sir, I am detecting approximately 60 ships in orbit around the 4th planet, Mars. Another 40 ships near their home world. No sign of any vessels in the outer system." Thexus nodded. 100 ships. They gather everything they have close to home. Like frightened children hiding under a blanket. Pathetic. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel. I will give them their chance to surrender." The message was broadcast across all human frequencies in their primary languages. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Thexus of the Galactic Council 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Your world has been found in violation of Council law. You have refused to submit to proper authority and have built weapons of war in defiance of galactic peace. You have 24 hours to power down your military forces and accept Council supervision. If you refuse, we will destroy your war-making capability by force. Choose wisely. On Earth, in the buried command center, Fleet Admiral G1 listened to the message with a cold expression. Around her, officers waited for her response. She let the full 24 hours elapse without sending a single word in reply. Silence can be its own answer. When the deadline passed, Thexus ordered his fleet forward. The 300 Council ships began their advance toward the inner system in a massive formation that had crushed rebellions on a dozen worlds. They moved past Neptune, past Uranus, heading toward Jupiter at a steady pace. Their sensors showed nothing unusual. The human ships remained near Mars and Earth, apparently waiting. "They are going to make their stand at their home world," Thexus said. "Vexall, prepare landing forces. Once we destroy their fleet, we will need ground troops to occupy their military installations." "Yes, sir," his second officer replied. "Sir, should we not be more cautious? The humans have been very quiet." "What would you have them do?" Thexus laughed. "They see our fleet and they freeze in terror. This is how it always goes with primitive species." The Council fleet crossed Jupiter's orbit. They were now in the asteroid belt, that vast ring of rock and ice that separated the inner and outer system. Thexus paid it little attention. His sensors showed nothing but empty space and tumbling debris, which was exactly what Captain Daehyun wanted him to see. The silent mountain hung in the shadow of an asteroid the size of a small mountain, her stealth systems making her invisible to conventional scans. Around her, 15 other carriers waited in similar hiding spots, scattered through hundreds of thousands of cubic kilometers of space. They had been here for 2 weeks, in complete silence, waiting for this exact moment. Daehyun watched his tactical display as the Council fleet moved deeper into the belt. They were strung out now, their tight formation loosened to avoid the larger asteroids. Perfect. "All ships," he transmitted on the encrypted human fleet channel. "Execute plan Shadowfall. Fire on my mark." He waited until the Council ships were at their most vulnerable, scattered across the belt with limited maneuvering room. Mark. The asteroids erupted. Thousands of mines that had been attached to rocks over the past 2 weeks activated simultaneously, their drives pushing them toward the nearest Council ships. Each mine was tiny, barely larger than a human fist, but they carried quantum disruption warheads designed by Dr. Tayman's team. The Council fleet's sensors detected the mines too late. Thousands of small contacts suddenly appeared on their screens, moving at impossible speeds. Point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds of mines, but there were too many. They reached the Council ships and detonated. The effect was catastrophic. The quantum warheads did not explode in the traditional sense. Instead, they created localized disruptions in the fundamental forces holding matter together. Ships simply came apart at the molecular level, their hulls dissolving into clouds of component atoms. In the first 30 seconds, 40 Council vessels ceased to exist. Thexus stared at his displays in shock. What was that? Where did those weapons come from? Before anyone could answer, the second phase of the ambush began. The human carriers decloaked, their stealth systems powering down as they opened their launch bays. Hundreds of fighters and bombers poured out, their drives flaring to life as they accelerated toward the confused Council fleet. "Contact!" his sensors officer screamed. "Multiple carriers appearing throughout the belt, fighter wings inbound." "Return fire!" Thexus roared. "All ships, weapons free, destroy those carriers!" But the carriers were already moving, using the asteroids for cover as they launched their deadly payloads. The human fighters were smaller than Council vessels, more maneuverable, and they fought with a viciousness that shocked the Council crews. They did not try to engage in traditional combat. Instead, they targeted engines, weapons systems, sensor arrays. They struck and vanished back into the asteroid field before the Council ships could respond effectively. Dae-hyun watched from the Silent Mountains bridge as the battle unfolded exactly as planned. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Focus all bomber wings on the Eternal Glory. Let us see how arrogant Thexus feels when his own ship is burning." The bombers streaked through space, dodging defensive fire as they closed on the Council flagship. They released their payloads at point-blank range and peeled away. The missiles struck the Eternal Glory's shields, overloading them with repeated impacts. The final missile punched through and detonated against the ship's hull, tearing a massive hole in her side. On the bridge, Thexus was thrown from his feet as the ship shuddered. Alarms wailed. "Damage report," he shouted. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. We have lost main power to forward weapons. Casualties across multiple sections." The reports came in one after another, each worse than the last. "Sir, we need to withdraw," Vexall said. "We are taking too much damage. We have lost 53 ships and the humans are barely scratched." Thexus wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him to stand and fight, but he was not stupid. This was not the easy victory he had expected. "All ships, fall back to Mars orbit. Reform and regroup." The Council fleet began its retreat, but the human fighters harried them every kilometer of the way. By the time they reached Mars, Thexus had lost 72 ships, nearly a quarter of his fleet gone in less than 6 hours. As the battered Council fleet tried to form a defensive position near Mars, Major Hana smiled from her position on an orbital station. "Finally," she said to her troops, "our turn." Drop pods launched from stations around Mars, hundreds of them, small armored capsules designed to punch through shields and hulls. The Council ships detected them too late. The pods struck like bullets, drilling through armor and depositing their cargo deep inside the ships. Hana's pod breached the hull of a Council cruiser, and she was moving before the cutting charges finished burning through. Her squad followed her, weapons ready, armor sealed against the vacuum. They encountered the first Council crew members seconds later. The fight was brutal and close. In the tight confines of the ship's corridors, the Council's technological advantages meant nothing. Hana and her troops were trained for this kind of combat. They moved through the ship like wolves through a flock of sheep, killing or capturing everyone they encountered. "Bridge secured," she reported 20 minutes later, standing over the body of the ship's captain. "Cruiser Valiant Dawn is ours." Across the fleet, similar reports came in. Human boarding parties seized 3 Council cruisers before Thexus even realized what was happening. When he did, he ordered those ships destroyed rather than allow them to fall into human hands completely. "Pull back," he ordered, his voice hollow. "All ships, jump to outer system. We need time to assess and regroup." The Council fleet retreated beyond Jupiter's orbit, leaving the asteroid belt and Mars behind. Thexus sat in his command chair, staring at the casualty reports. 104 ships lost, over 30,000 crew members dead, and the humans had not even used their main fleet yet. He composed a message to the Galactic Council, his hands shaking slightly as he dictated. "Request immediate reinforcements. Enemy capabilities vastly exceed all projections. Human forces demonstrate advanced weapons technology, superior tactical coordination, and willingness to accept casualties. This will not be a simple police action. I repeat, request immediate reinforcements." He sent the message and then ordered his crew to begin repairs. The humans had won the first round, but the war was far from over. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jiwan watched the Council fleet retreat and allowed herself a small smile. "Good work, everyone, but this is just the beginning. They will be back, and next time they will bring everything they have." She was right. The Galactic Council's pride had been wounded. And a wounded predator was always the most dangerous. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaotic. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted over each other, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. In the center of it all, Ambassador Velcrim stood with his head bowed, no longer the confident figure who had pushed for war just weeks earlier. The holographic displays showed the aftermath of the Third Fleet's defeat. Images of shattered ships, casualty lists, tactical analyses, over 100 Council vessels destroyed or captured, 30,000 crew members dead, and the human homeworld had not even been touched. "This is impossible," roared a representative from the Corthan Unity. "How could primitives destroy a third of our fleet?" "They are not primitives," said a quiet voice. All heads turned to see Hyun Woo standing in the observation section. He had not been given permission to speak, but no one moved to silence him. "That is what I tried to tell you. Humanity may be young in space, but we have been fighting wars since before your species discovered fire. We know how to kill. We are very, very good at it." "Silence him," Velcrim hissed. "He is biased. He cannot be objective about his own species." "Can he not?" The speaker was Council Elder Mira, one of the few voices that had voted against the war. Observer Hyun Woo warned us this would happen. He told us we were underestimating humanity. We chose not to listen. The blood of those 30,000 is on our hands, not his. The chamber erupted again. Some called for Hyun Woo's arrest, others demanded answers. And a few quietly suggested perhaps they should reconsider their approach to Earth. But the loudest voice belonged to Supreme Commander Vraxis. He was massive, even by Council standards, a being that looked like he was carved from living stone. His species, the Krellians, had led the Council's military forces for over 2,000 years. He had personally commanded fleets in 17 major campaigns, and he had never lost. "Enough," his voice boomed, cutting through the chaos. "We can argue about blame later. Right now, we need to decide our next move. Do we negotiate with the humans, or do we finish what we started?" "Negotiate?" Velcrim sputtered. "After they killed thousands of our people?" "After we tried to conquer their homeworld, you mean?" Elder Mira said coldly. "Let us be clear about who struck first." Vraxis raised a hand for silence. "I have reviewed the battle reports. Admiral Thexus made mistakes, yes. He underestimated the enemy and paid for it. But the fundamental problem remains. The humans have shown they possess military technology that rivals or exceeds our own. They have refused all attempts at peaceful integration into the Council, and now they have proven they are willing to fight. We cannot allow this to continue." "What do you propose?" asked another elder. "We send the Grand Armada," Vraxis said simply. 1,200 ships under my personal command. We do not give them time to prepare or scatter more traps. We jump directly to Earth orbit and we end this quickly. Overwhelming force, applied decisively. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the Council's pride won out over caution. They voted to authorize the Grand Armada. As the session ended, security forces took Hyun Woo into custody. His crime was speaking without permission, but everyone knew the real reason. They did not want him warning Earth again. But Hyun Woo had already sent his message. 3 weeks later, the Grand Armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Supreme Commander Vraxis stood on the bridge of his command, Dreadnought, the Fist of Justice, and surveyed his fleet with satisfaction. 1,200 ships, the largest military force the Council had assembled in 5 centuries. Nothing could stand against this. "Scan the system," he ordered. "I want to know the position of every human vessel." "Sir," his sensors officer reported, "detecting significant human fleet concentrations near Mars and Earth. Estimated 120 vessels. No contacts in the outer system." "They learned from last time," Vraxis noted. "No asteroid belt ambush. They pull everything back to defend their home directly." He studied the tactical display. "Interesting. They know they cannot win a straight fight, so they fortify their strongest position." Unlike Thexus, Vraxis did not send surrender demands. He did not waste time with threats. He simply ordered his fleet forward at maximum speed, jumping through the system in a series of calculated faster-than-light hops that bypassed the outer planets entirely. On Earth, Fleet Admiral G1 watched the Council fleet's approach with grim determination. "They are not making the same mistakes twice," she observed. "Vraxis knows what he is doing." "Should we engage them before they reach Earth?" asked one of her officers. "No," G1 said. "Let them come to us. Everything depends on them committing fully to the attack. If they suspect our true strength too early, they might withdraw, and we lose our only chance." The Grand Armada reached Mars in hours, blowing past the human defensive positions there without stopping. A few human ships tried to intercept them, but Vraxis ignored them. His target was Earth, and nothing would distract him from it. Captain Dae-hyun, recovered from his injuries and now commanding a new carrier, the Storm's Edge, led a squadron in a desperate attempt to slow the Council advance. His ships darted in and out of the massive formation, launching missiles and fighters, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. "All ships fall back to Earth orbit," G1 ordered. "Execute defensive plan Bulwark. Make them think we are on our last legs." The human fleet retreated, racing ahead of the Council Armada. They took up positions around Earth, creating a defensive sphere that looked impressive, but was hopelessly outnumbered. 1,200 Council ships versus 100 human vessels. The outcome seemed inevitable. Vraxis allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They make their final stand. Admirable courage, but ultimately futile. He opened fleet-wide communications. "All ships prepare for assault. Destroy their fleet, but minimize damage to the planet itself. We will need it intact." The Grand Armada closed to weapons range and opened fire. The battle that followed was brutal beyond anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Human ships exploded under concentrated fire, but they fought to the last. When their weapons ran dry, they rammed Council vessels. When their hulls were breached, the crews kept fighting even as they died. But they were losing. Slowly, inevitably, the human fleet was being destroyed. Then the moon lit up. Dr. Tae-min sat in his lunar bunker, his hand hovering over the activation switch for the Reaper protocol. He watched the battle rage in orbit above, watched human ships dying, watched thousands of his fellow humans perish, and he pressed the switch. Across the lunar surface, thousands of hidden panels slid open. Missile silos, railgun batteries, energy weapons, systems that had been buried and camouflaged for years, all came online simultaneously. The moon, humanity's ancient companion, became a fortress. At the same moment, satellites across Earth orbit decloaked. Thousands of them. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure or had simply been invisible to Council sensors. And Earth itself revealed its defenses, ground-based systems that could reach into space with devastating accuracy. The Sol system became a shooting gallery, and the Council fleet was the target. Missiles streaked up from the lunar surface, each one carrying a quantum disruption warhead. Railgun slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through shields and armor like they were paper. Energy beams, powerful enough to cut a battleship in half, lanced out from hidden platforms. Vraxis watched in shock as his fleet began to take catastrophic casualties. Where did all of this come from? How did we not detect any of this? "They hid it in plain sight," his tactical officer said in awe. "Those satellites we thought were communication relays, those lunar installations we classified as mining operations, all of it was weapon systems waiting to be activated." "All ships scatter formation," Vraxis ordered. "Engage defensive pattern Omega. Target those platforms." The battle descended into chaos. The Council fleet had superior numbers, but the human defenses turned Earth's orbital space into a killing field. Ships on both sides exploded in brilliant flashes. Debris filled the space around Earth, making navigation hazardous. The fighting was so intense that neither side could gain a clear advantage. And then Captain Dae-hyun made his decision. His carrier was crippled, engines failing. Hull breached in a dozen places. He could see the Council flagship, the Fist of Justice, looming on his displays. One shot. He could change the battle with one shot. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered calmly. "Get to the escape pods. You have 2 minutes." "Sir?" His executive officer stared at him. "What are you doing?" "Winning the war," Dae-hyun replied. "Now go. That is an order." He waited until the escape pods launched, then locked his controls and pointed the Storm's edge directly at the Fist of Justice. His dying ship accelerated on her last reserves of power, building speed as she crossed the distance to the Council flagship. Vraxis saw it coming too late. Evasive action! But the massive dreadnought could not turn in time. The Storm's edge struck the Fist of Justice amidships at tremendous velocity, her reactor going critical at the moment of impact. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star briefly burning in orbit. When it faded, both ships were gone. Dae-hyun's escape pod tumbled through space, its automated systems firing small thrusters to stabilize it. Inside, the captain watched the battle rage on, hoping his sacrifice had been worth it. The battle for Earth had become a grinding stalemate. For 3 days, the two fleets clashed in orbital space, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. The Council had numbers, but humanity had turned their home system into a fortress. Every kilometer of space around Earth was filled with weapons, mines, and desperate defenders willing to die for their world. But both sides were bleeding. Human casualties climbed into the hundreds of thousands. Council losses approached 300 ships destroyed, and still neither side could break the other. On what remained of the Council command structure, now operating from the battleship Iron Conviction, Vraxis assessed the situation with growing frustration. Supreme Commander Vraxis had survived the destruction of his flagship by sheer luck, having been inspecting forward positions when Captain Dae-hyun's carrier struck. But that luck had not extended to his fleet. "Status report," he demanded. His new tactical officer, a Thalaxian named Corvus, who had replaced 3 previous officers killed in action, pulled up the data. "Sir, we have lost 297 ships. Our ammunition stocks are at 40%. Crew fatigue is becoming critical. And the humans show no signs of surrendering." "What about their fleet?" "Reduced to 38 operational vessels. Their orbital defenses have been degraded by approximately 60%. But, sir, they keep fighting. Every time we think we have broken them, they find another weapon platform, another hidden system, another surprise." Vraxis slammed his fist on the command console. How can one species be this stubborn? Any other race would have surrendered by now. What Vraxis did not know was that humanity's stubbornness was about to become his worst nightmare. On Saturn's moon, Titan, Major Hana led her remaining forces in a desperate raid. The Council had established a supply depot on the frozen moon, using it to resupply their ships between attacks on Earth. It was heavily defended, but Hana had a plan. "We hit them fast and hard," she told her troops as their assault shuttles approached under stealth. "No prisoners, no mercy. We destroy everything they have stored here, and we get out before reinforcements arrive." The raid was textbook perfect. Hana's forces landed, overwhelmed the surprised defenders, and planted demolition charges throughout the depot. 20 minutes after they arrived, the entire facility erupted in a massive explosion that could be seen from Saturn orbit. The Council fleet suddenly found itself cut off from resupply. Their ammunition situation went from concerning to critical, but that was just the opening move. In the Kuiper Belt, far beyond the orbit of Neptune, a fleet that had been waiting in silence for weeks finally received its orders. Admiral Su Jin stood on the bridge of the UES Unconquered, a battleship that represented everything humanity had learned about warfare in the stars. Around her ship, 499 other vessels powered up their systems for the first time. This was Earth's secret. For 10 years, hidden shipyards scattered through the outer system had been building a fleet designed for one purpose: to fight the Galactic Council and win. These ships incorporated every lesson learned from studying Council technology, every advantage humanity's engineers could devise, every weapon that could be crammed into their hulls. And now, while the Council was fully committed to the battle for Earth, this fleet was about to hit them from behind. "All ships, execute jump sequence," Sujin ordered. "Target, Earth orbit. Time to show these Council fools what real humans can do when we are not holding back." 500 ships vanished in flashes of twisted space, using Earth's own faster-than-light technology to cross the solar system in minutes. On the Iron Conviction, Sensors Officer Corvus stared at his display in disbelief. "Sir, massive energy signatures detected, multiple ships jumping in behind our formation." "How many?" Vraxis demanded. 500 ships, sir, all unknown configurations. They are human vessels." "That is impossible. Where did they come from?" He got his answer when the Earth-strike fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect attack formation and immediately opened fire. The Council fleet, already exhausted from days of fighting, suddenly found themselves caught between Earth's defenses in front and a fresh, powerful fleet behind. Admiral Sujin's ships tore into the Council's rear guard with devastating precision. Her battleships targeted the larger Council vessels, while her destroyers and frigates hunted damaged ships that tried to escape. Her carriers launched fighter wings that swept through the Council formation like a swarm of angry hornets. The Council fleet began to disintegrate. Ships that had been fighting for days were in no shape to face a new, fresh enemy. Ammunition was low. Crews were exhausted. Morale was broken. One by one, Council vessels began to break formation, some trying to escape, others simply powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender signals. Vraxis watched his fleet die and knew he had lost. The humans had outplayed him at every turn. The casualties, the defenses, the hidden fleet, all of it had been part of their plan from the beginning. They had made the Council commit everything to attacking Earth, and then they had sprung the trap. "Sir, we must withdraw," Corvus said quietly. "If we stay, we will be annihilated." Vraxis wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him to fight to the last ship, to make the humans pay for every meter of space. But he was not Thexus. He was not blinded by arrogance. He was a soldier, and he knew when he was beaten. "Signal all ships," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Cease fire. Broadcast surrender on all frequencies. It is over." The message went out across the Council fleet and the human forces. For a long moment, the shooting continued as crews processed what they were hearing. Then, slowly, the guns fell silent. On Earth, Fleet Admiral G1 stood in the command center and watched the Council fleet lower their shields and power down their weapons. She felt no triumph, only exhaustion and sorrow for all the lives lost. Around her, officers broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the realization that they had survived. "Open a channel to the Council flagship," she ordered. Moments later, Vraxis appeared on her display. He looked old, tired, and defeated. "Fleet Admiral G1, I offer the surrender of all Council forces in the Sol system. We will comply with any terms you set." G1 studied him for a moment. "Your fleet will remain in orbit under guard. Your wounded will receive medical treatment. We will discuss terms when both sides have recovered from this nightmare. But know this, Supreme Commander, this war does not end here. It ends at the Galactic Council chambers, where you will all answer for what you have done." Vraxis nodded slowly. "I understand. For what it is worth, you fought with honor. Your species has earned my respect, even in defeat. That respect cost hundreds of thousands of lives on both sides," G1 replied coldly. "I hope it was worth it." She cut the connection and turned to her staff. "Get recovery teams out there. I want every survivor pulled from the debris field, ours and theirs. And someone find Captain Dae-hyun. I want him back alive. The rescue operation took days. Thousands of escape pods drifted through Earth orbit, some human, most Council. Medical ships worked around the clock treating the wounded. Debris was cleared to make space safe again, and slowly, the full cost of the battle became clear. 362 Council ships destroyed, over 200,000 Council personnel dead or missing, 47 human ships lost, 180,000 human casualties, orbital defenses reduced by 70%, parts of Earth's surface damaged by debris strikes, but Earth still stood. Humanity had survived. When they finally recovered Captain Dae-hyun from his escape pod, he was suffering from severe injuries and exposure, but he was alive. Fleet Admiral Ji-won visited him in the hospital personally. "You are insane," she told him. "Ramming their flagship like that." Dae-hyun smiled weakly. "Did it work?" "Yes. It bought us the time we needed for Admiral Soo-jin's fleet to arrive. You are a hero, Captain." "I am just a man who did what was necessary," he replied, "like all of us." On Centrum Prime, the Galactic Council received word of the Grand Armada's defeat in stunned silence. Hyunwoo, released from custody when the news arrived, stood before them once more. "You wanted to teach humanity a lesson," he said quietly. "Instead, you learned one. You learned that we do not break. You learned that we do not surrender. And most importantly, you learned that underestimating us was the worst mistake you could make." He paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. "Fleet Admiral Ji-won has demanded that peace terms be negotiated at the Council chambers. She is coming here with an escort fleet to ensure humanity finally gets the voice you denied us. I suggest you prepare. The Earth delegation does not negotiate from weakness anymore." 6 months later, Admiral Soo-jin's fleet entered orbit around Centrum Prime. It was a deliberate show of force. 500 ships arranged in perfect formation around the diplomatic station. The message was clear. Humanity could strike at the heart of Council space anytime they chose. And inside those ships, preparing to face the Galactic Council on equal terms at last, was humanity's delegation. Led by Fleet Admiral Ji-won, accompanied by heroes like Captain Dae-hyun and Major Hana, guided by Ambassador Hyunwoo, and backed by the might of Earth's military. The war was over. The real work was about to begin.